I believe that almost everyone watching this can make their first $10,000, make their first million. So having that internally is so important to get started. A lot of it has to do with self-worth, the idea that you deserve to have your first million. Sometimes when I'm on my book tour, which I've been on for weeks, I will ask the audience, how many people here think that they deserve to have $1 million? And only half of the audience will raise their hands. And I'll ask, why did some of you not raise their hands? And people will yell out, I'll ask them for feedback, and they'll say things like, I don't think anyone should have that much money, or I don't know anyone with $1 million. How can I be the first person in my group, in my orbit, to have the million? And so many people are held back by this limiting belief. You watch these videos, you start a company, you want better for yourself. You want to get out of the rut you're in, but you don't want to shoot for the stars. You just want enough. You just want what other people think you should have. I don't think you should limit yourself to that. So this idea of self-worth, that you deserve happiness, you deserve success, you deserve to make your first million. I think that you should share your voice with the world because there's only one of you. People get scared to do that because they say, well, people online are really mean, which they are, they can be. And what if I get it wrong, or what if I mess up? I don't want to be canceled. If you think about the people who are your heroes, the people you admire the most, the people you want to be like, most of them are not quiet. Most of them have a very strong opinion and a strong brand, and you know what they stand for. The reason you know that is because they've said it. They've expressed themselves, and they've done so publicly. They've put themselves out there, and there's no one on this planet who doesn't have somebody mad at them. You can't please everybody. If you have too many people liking what you're doing, you may not be taking enough risk. So to be willing to be wrong in public means that you're taking a healthy amount of risk, in my opinion, and it means that you're gonna reach more people. And in building your company and building your brand, that is the most important thing you can do, is to have your message heard by more people. So when I think about this for myself, I'm always out there, right? I'm online, people are meeting me. I go fly around the country and around the world, and I meet with people. And every single day I get so much love and so much incredible feedback, and people from years ago, or they met me years ago, or they found out about me yesterday. I get all this love, and I understand, like, oh, I helped this person start their company, or this person got inspired and did this. And there's always, every single day, negativity. There's always someone saying to me, either in comments or DMing me or emailing me or telling me to my face, I've done something wrong, I was wrong about something. It took me years to understand that that's just part of the game. That is the price I'm paying to get my positive message out to the world. And so if you can learn that, it's not easy to learn, but if you can learn that, you can face it. I know so many people who are in the shadows, and they have strong opinions about things, but they don't want to ruffle feathers. The truth of the matter is, you're not going to get very far if you're not willing to put yourself out there. I say be yourself so the people looking for you can find you. A big part of that is sharing your opinion, forming an opinion. Depending on how old you are or what you've experienced in life, it may be tough for you to make decisions or to decide what your opinion is, but you know yourself. You know deep down what you believe about something public, something private. I want to challenge you to write a blog post, put a tweet out there, put something online that you may not have done in the past. Surprise people in your family. Like, put something out there that's a little bit stronger of an opinion. And the more you do it, it's like a muscle being built. You'll get more used to it. You'll get used to hearing the bad feedback like we just talked about, and you'll also be used to hearing from that person who DMs you and says, I couldn't say what you just said, but I believe it and I feel it, and you've just helped me today. It's such an incredible feeling, and it's a very powerful thing to be able to do and to share with the world. Think in decades, not quarters. What do I mean by that? Well, a lot of people think about what's going to happen tomorrow, today, next week, even this year, planning out this year. And if something goes wrong, if something comes out of nowhere and throws you off, I used to be like this, right? I would get so worried, so panicked, and I wouldn't have a plan. And on top of that, I would think, oh, this failure, this thing that happened, this bad thing is going to throw me off course for everything else that I have planned. Well, if you think in decades and not quarters, these small bumps along the road are almost meaningless. Here's something you can do right now to test this. Think back a year ago. Do you remember what was going on a year ago in your life? Do you remember an email that came through that made you panic? This is something else you can do. If there's something, is there an email right now in your inbox that's giving you pause, that's giving you concern, anxiety? Will it matter in 1 year? That's a really great way to take that anxiety off of your plate. You still address it, you still care about it, but it has different meaning. It does not control you, it does not own you. Also, have the patience and be in the long game, and you can outlast all your critics, all your doubters, and all your haters. Most people who are critics, doubters, and haters don't last very long because they're in a toxic situation. They're not thinking long term. If they were thinking long term, they would not have time to criticize you. So if you can get into that mindset, the world is your oyster. Get comfortable with rejection. Rejection is part of a math game. When I was younger, I wanted to get into live music production. And what I did was I emailed 100 tour managers and production managers. And it took me 2 months to find all their emails and to research them. And I sent them these emails, and 80 of them ghosted, didn't hear back from them at all. 20 of them responded. 17 of those 20 said no, right out the gate, not interested. 3 of those 20 and of those 100 said, yes, I will have a meeting with you in person. So I met with 3 of those production and tour managers, and one of them turned into the first major gig of my life, where I went on tour with an international musician for years off of that one yes. So getting used to rejection actually helps you get to your first yes. So many people stop where the pain is, stop too soon, and they say, well, I don't want to hear the no. I don't want to get rejected. It's too painful. And yes, it's a bummer. Of course it is, we're human. But if you can look at this as a math game, every no is getting you closer to the first yes and to the next yes. Then things change for the better. A few years ago, I had debilitating stage fright. I could not get on a stage. I could not speak in front of a lot of people. Obviously, that's changed. I now speak hundreds of times a year, virtually, in person. I've spoken in front of 20,000 people before. I speak everywhere. And I get asked the same questions over and over and over and over again. And I have to repeat myself. What I learned from working with musicians, though, who sing the same songs every single night. I asked a friend of mine a few years ago, I was their tour manager, and indie singer-songwriter. I said, how do you sing that song night after night after night? How do you repeat yourself and have the same conviction in your words and your tone? And she said something I'll never forget. She said, every night I break my own heart over again. So she can remember the feeling of when she wrote that song, like it's the first time she's singing it. And it just, of course, blew my mind. That's what you're going to have to get used to as you are getting closer and closer to the greatness that I know is ahead of you. As more and more people learn about you, as you start to stack your skills, as you get more and more resources and more money and more opportunity, you're going to be asked the same questions, or you're going to have to teach the same lessons. And the way that I do it is every single day, I pretend it's the very first time I'm saying it. I'm in the moment, it's the first time I'm saying it, and the person who needs to hear it is the most important person in the room. What's something that if you spent a few minutes or a few hours writing down, thinking through, you could find your unique advantage? One of mine, especially when I don't have like the capital, is that I can communicate really well. I used to have ridiculous, debilitating stage fright until I was 30, almost 37. So I couldn't spread my message that way. I do that now. I get paid to do it most times. But even then, when I couldn't speak on big stages, I could write, or I could go on video, or I could do audio, or I could type out on social. I could communicate. And I used my ability to communicate to then build community, to build a world where people wanted to be part of something. Even as recently as my event, Your First Million Live, that happened in LA, 2,000 people came to it from all over the world. People said their biggest takeaway was the people in the room. Like, people on stage were cool and the venue was awesome and the music was great, but it was the people who were attending that was like the biggest takeaway for most people that I'm hearing from. And that's because of years and years and years of me cultivating that ambiance, that community that came through communication. So that was my unfair advantage early. It's still my unfair advantage. It's still something that helps me in rooms with millionaires and billionaires, because a lot of millionaires and a lot of billionaires cannot adequately express themselves. Isn't that interesting? They can't do that. So when I was learning all of this information years ago, I did what I call becoming money. I became money. I put the information in my head. I could control how much I learned every day. I then took that information and I used it to exchange with someone, with an investor, for capital to start my fund, because I had the information she wanted and needed, and she had the capital that I wanted and needed. We exchanged that. And then I exchanged my information for money because it was already money. So all of these things, thinking through life in these ways, communicating a certain way, having these phrases, be yourself so the people looking for you can find you. That's a phrase that I came up with. Be the money. There's so many more. The way that I communicate, the way that I'm talking to you right now, all of this is part of that. What is your unfair advantage? I would say, what am I good at? And what does someone else need? Then I would decide on that. I would go to Zoom, I would set it up and link it to PayPal or link it to Stripe. Then I would go on social and I would go into my own pocket and pull out names. And I'm talking about when I'm broke. I'm not talking about like me today. I'm talking about me 10 years ago. I'd pull out my phone, if I had the technology we have today, and I would say, for $100, for $200, for $300, I will jump on a Zoom with you for 30 minutes or an hour, and I will consult with you. I actually did this back in the day. I did this with phone calls. So I used to have this blog that had 50,000 people who looked at it every single month, and that was awesome. So I would do these calls, these consulting calls for $30 an hour or half an hour, $30 for half an hour, and I'd tell people how to build their blogs. And anytime I was like really desperate for money, which is a lot of time, I would do this. And people would pay me because I would give them more value than what they were handing me. That's the important part. Like, you're giving them value. Why would you hold that back from people? If they don't want to buy that from you, they won't. Trust them, they won't. But there are people right now who really want what you have and they need help, and you have the help to give them, and you want to exchange that fair value. So that's what I would do. I'd say, can I get 5 phone calls in the next 7 days that cost $200 each? And I give them $2,000 worth of value. I give them everything I have, help them with whatever I can in that hour, and get the first 1,000.